What's goody? It's your host Jay Rose as always, and we are 8 weeks into the NBA season, and I really wanted to give just my thoughts on how I think these teams are doing and give a tier list on them. The tier list is not based on how they're doing against other teams, but based on what I think their expectations were coming into the season and how they've produced in proportion to those expectations. You get what I'm saying? I hope you get what I'm saying. Let's get into it. Over 90% of the people that watch my content are not subscribed, so if you're messing with the videos, please hit that sub button and the noti bell so you'll get notified every time I upload. But let's get back to the hoops. The first team on this list is the Atlanta Hawks, and honestly, I don't know how to feel about the Atlanta Hawks. I feel like they're more or less doing the same thing they were last year. They're obviously a more fun team to watch. I like how Jalen Johnson has been coming into his own. I like how Dyson Daniels on defense also looks really good. So I think they're a little bit ahead of schedule in terms of what I'm seeing from their young guys. But as a team as a whole, I expected them to kind of be doing the same thing. I'll put them at a B, just because I think they're a lot more fun than I gave them credit for, and they're a lot more competitive than I thought they would have been. I think they're still going to hover around 500, but yeah. They're a lot more fun and competitive than I thought they would be, but they're still a 500 team, so I'll give them the B. The Celtics, I can't really ask the Celtics to do much more. You are looking like the most dominant team in the league. They're spawning players that know how to hoop out of thin air. Peyton Pritchard is a demon off the bench. They have one of the best starting fives in the NBA, even with two of their starting five players being hurt at any given time. It's just crazy work from the Celtics, crazy work. The Brooklyn Nets, honestly, I want to give them a B because I feel like they've gotten a lot of guys who've putting up numbers for trade pieces, and they have already started that process, trading Dennis Schroeder for DeAnthony Melton in some second round picks. I think they could have gotten more in that deal, to be honest. I think Dennis Schroeder is a player that you most definitely could have gotten somebody better for. You could have gotten a better package. They got a lot of draft capital from the Knicks as well. So, this season's going pretty decent if you're a Nets fan, considering I thought this team was going to be probably the worst in the NBA and not make any moves, so I'll give them a B for that. Charlotte has been okay at times in the season. Honestly, I feel like LaMelo has taken a really big leap, but unfortunately, LaMelo just can't stay on the court for that long of a period of time. As a team, they're still pretty bad. Their defense is really bad. They have made no real moves to make this team any better. You're looking at a team like Detroit who's trying. You look at a team like Atlanta who made a conference final once upon a time, and they've tried it. They've tried to build around their star. I don't think that the Hornets have tried to do anything in terms of really building a real roster. They brought in Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier all those years ago, but what are we doing right now? Miles Bridges is back and he looks horrible. So along with the controversy, I don't know why you even want him on your roster right now. There's just a lot going on in that city. Maybe I give them a D. Yeah, I think I give them a D. They have two bright spots, and it's Brandon Miller and LaMelo. I like what I see from Trey Mann every now and then, but I'm just not a huge fan. The Bulls, man, they're not. I don't think they're that horrible, if I'm being honest. I haven't paid a crazy amount of attention to the Bulls as of recently, the last 2 weeks, but they are not terrible the last time I checked. They're pretty bad. 11-15. That's a play-in spot in the East. That's not great. They're only a spot ahead of the Nets. Maybe. Yeah. I'm gonna keep 2 Ds. I think. Yeah. That's what we're gonna do. Yeah. The Cavs, S. What more could you ask for Cleveland this season? Realistically, they're the 1 seed. They've been taking care of business. They got some good wins. I feel like their schedule, like I said, has been one of the easiest to start the season, and that has definitely contributed to why they're atop the entire NBA right now in terms of winning. But they're still doing that. So I 100% give them their props for that. This is an S tier season, at least to start off for sure. The Mavericks, I'm going to give an A. As a Mavs fan, I expected a lot more out of Klay Thompson, but some of the other additions that we made this offseason have been absolutely hooping. Quentin Grimes blew away my expectations. Najee Marshall blowing away my expectations. Klay Thompson will give you a game, like a good game, once every 2 weeks. And he's also had a decent stint where he was hurt. That being said, we're still a really good team. We're 17-9. That's good for the 3rd, 4th seed in the Western Conference. So we're a good team. I want us to be good enough to get a top 3-4 seed and maintain that. I want to be a championship contender, and that's what we look like so far. I just don't think we're at the peak of our powers. I think if Klay Thompson really does find his groove, he could average 18, 19, 20 points a game for us, and that would absolutely change the dynamic of this team, and we'd immediately go into being, well, I feel like we are a top echelon team, but we'd immediately, like, I feel like we go Celtics level. If Klay Thompson can give us that, we go Celtics level for sure. So, yeah, we're not at our peak yet, but definitely one of the best teams in the NBA for sure. Denver. Honestly speaking, Denver, for your expectations, because Denver's expectations are always championship these days, right? I feel like for their expectations, this is a bad year. This is a bad year. The thing that I think people are going to get mad at me for is that Jokic is having a great season, and I'm not going to take that away from him. Jokic is absolutely having a great season. My whole thing is, you got to notice the patterns. When Jokic has to absolutely dominate a game, it's because he has to. Also, when he has to do that, they lose a decent amount of the games. Like, it's kind of alarming, and it takes me back to this one year when Jamal Murray was out and MPJ was out, and they just could not win in the playoffs. Like, you have Jokic putting up these crazy performances, and they could not win games. They just couldn't do it. And that kind of is reminiscent of what's going on this year. I feel like Aaron Gordon's missed some time, but obviously their depth just really isn't as good as it used to be. They got Russell Westbrook, and Westbrook's been shooting pretty good from 3, which I thought was really surprising. But overall, he hasn't been super crazy. He's averaging 11, 3, and 6. So yeah, they're just not getting major contributions from anybody, really. I think they have a superstar player doing superstar things. He's one of the best players in the league, and this is going to be a season that's going to be looked at, and you're going to go, damn, he didn't get an MVP, because they're just not a great team right now. This is honestly speaking, I want to give you an F, because my expectation for Detroit, I can't give them an F, because they were the worst team in basketball last year. And they're better than the Hornets, and they're like a game worse than the Bulls. This looks crazy having Denver all the way down here, but it's for their expectations. It's for their expectations. I'm not ranking the teams in terms of who I think is the best and the worst. What your expectations were coming into the season. And Detroit, my expectations were a little higher, because I don't think last year they should have been one of the worst teams. One of the worst, maybe. The worst? No. They were like one of the worst teams in history. They sucked. This year, they made additions. They got Tobias Harris. They got Tim Hardaway Jr. K got another year under his belt. Ivy got another year under his belt. Dern got another year under his belt. I'm at least expecting you to not be 10 and 16. You know, you can beat some teams, bro. And we saw that even last year. Like, they were really hanging with some teams that were really, really good. They wouldn't win the games, but they were hanging there. So I'm expecting you to at least be, like, decent. I'm not saying be, like, a super winning team, but be closer to 500. Next team is the Warriors. The Warriors have been okay. For expectation, my expectation was low. I didn't think they were going to be in the playoffs, and they've been pretty decent. They had that hot start to the season. They're struggling as of late, though. Last night they had a crazy shooting performance, so I think they have the ability to really pick up the pace. But yeah, it's not great right now. For the Rockets, S tier. I can't even say anything else. Like, this team is winning by committee. They got Sengun playing well, Amen Thompson playing well, Jalen Green is up and down, Fred VanVleet hasn't been that great, and the fact that they're still this good, with all that being said, is crazy. 3rd seed in the East, same record as the Mavericks, 17-9. I didn't expect them to take this big of a leap. They were really close to making the play-in game last year, so I knew that they were going to be in the mix for a play-in playoff spot. But the 3 seed, crazy. Good shit, Houston. Indiana, I'm struggling to not say F. My expectations for Indiana was top 4 seed. Honestly, top 4 or 5 seed. Like, looking at the playoffs last year, they gave the Celtics issues. You got Pascal, you got Tyrese, you got Benedict Mathurin, you got all of these dudes who are getting really good off the bench, Miles Turner, and y'all don't look good. Y'all don't look good. They're the 8th seed in the East right now, behind the Hawks, who I thought were gonna be a 500 team, and they are. But Indiana 12-15. Tyrese has had a really, really bad year. This is another D to F tier, honestly. I don't want to give them an F. But yeah, man. Like, in my opinion, this is an F tier season. So far, this is an F tier season. You're supposed to be building off your identity last year. You were the fastest, one of the most potent offenses, and you don't look that great right now. So, yeah. The Clippers is weird. I'll give them a C tier because the expectations were never high, and they're 14-12. They started off the season really hot, and they are starting to cool off. I think they're probably going to end up being a 500 team or maybe below as it goes on. But yeah, this is not a crazy start to the year. You obviously lose Paul George. Kawhi hasn't played a game yet. So for them to even be 14-12 in the Western Conference and have a play-in spot at the moment, I think that's impressive. The Lakers, I'm going to give them a C tier as well. I think my expectations for the Lakers were a bit higher than the average person. I know they still have Bron and AD, so I thought they could really still do damage. They brought in JJ. The offense does look like it's running much better in the half court, and they're still a 500 team pretty much, which is disappointing. I think it might be time to maybe blow this up soon, maybe, and try to get some assets, try to do something, because at the end of the day, the real problem with this team is not the coaching, it's not LeBron, it's not AD, it's the fact that they haven't really tried to surround them with complementary pieces without revamping the entire fucking roster. Like, I don't understand why Rob Pelinka thinks that he has to trade everybody or nobody. You can trade a couple of pieces or try to get a couple of pieces here and there. Like, I don't understand why everything has to be a blockbuster, big deal, I'm trading the whole roster kind of thing. Like, they need to build like the Mavericks have done, like another team. I'm trying to think of another team that's just been building gradually. Like, you need to build gradually. I think that's really the best way to win in the NBA. I think of the Knicks last year, building gradually. Like, I don't think you need to make super blockbuster deals every single time you make a trade, but you need pieces that complement your guys, and they just don't have that. The Memphis Grizzlies is an A season for sure. I think the only way that this season could have gone any better for them is if Ja Morant was playing up the standard and Desmond Bane was playing up the standard. But regardless, they're still the second seed in the Western Conference. They're 18-9. So honestly, I might give them S tier. They were one of the worst teams in basketball last year. They were without their star for the entire season. This year, the star comes back. Ja's only averaging like 22. Desmond Bane went from a 20-point scorer to 13, and they're 18-9. That's scary. That's definitely scary. If Desmond Bane shots start hitting, if Ja Morant shots start hitting, and he's more aggressive, this could be a team that you most definitely got to look out for in the Western Conference for sure. The Miami Heat, they're not terrible right now. They're 13-10. They're not terrible, but they're not great. Like, I feel like their expectation, they're right at where I thought they would be, which is like 500. I know their expectation is a lot higher. This is a team that has aspirations, but they just haven't made any moves, and I don't expect you to get better when you're not making moves to get better. This one's gonna surprise some people. I'm gonna give the Bucks an A. How are you giving the Bucks an A? They're 14-11. They're behind the Heat. The Bucks started off the season so incredibly shit. I feel like people seem to forget small details like that very quickly. The Bucks were on 76er level bad this season to start off, and they've turned that ship completely around. They're winning a lot of games. They're literally streaking. They are literally streaking. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 3 in a row again. I think they're going to continue to win games. Dame, all I said is Dame got to average at least 25 and they're going to be fine, and Dame is doing exactly that, and they are fine. They're getting other guys to contribute. That AJ Griffin dude off the bench, Gary Trent Jr. starting to turn his season around slowly but surely. I think the Bucks are fine. I think that they're really going to come into their own this season, and we're going to see Dame and Giannis, the duo, how we were supposed to see it. Minnesota, man. Yeah, got to be D tier. You came off a Western Conference Finals appearance, and what team doesn't expect to build off of that? I know they absolutely expected to come into the season and be better than they were last season, and they're not. That hurts. You just traded your second best player, and you clearly got worse. That's unfortunate. I think it has the potential to still be a lateral move, but Julius Randle's defense just is not great. And I don't think Cat's a great defender either, but what he gave to the team last year was a lot better than what Julius Randle was giving to the team on the defensive end of the ball. And that's a big deal considering you were a defensive team last year. Same thing with Indiana. You're losing your identity, and when that happens, you're not going to win games like you did before. They're not terrible. Still fighting for a play-in, playoff spot. But just coming off that season you had last year, they were expecting to be a top 3 seed at the very least, and they're not even close at the moment. New Orleans, that's an F. Oh my goodness, that's an F. And it's not due to any fault of their own. The injury bug is just absolutely smacking them right now. And they can't, you can't play basketball without your players. They're 5-22. Their season is over, more or less. I don't think you can fight back in the Western Conference from a 5-22 record. They might as well honestly try to blow it up if I'm them. Like it just hasn't been a good it hasn't been a good run in the Zion era. The New York Knicks, I'm gonna give them top of B because obviously they're better than the Bucks. I can't even do that. I gotta give them A. Yeah, they're 16-10. I think they started off slow too, but they're picking it up. I feel like they have these stretches where they look like a super great team, the Knicks team that we thought we were getting this season. Then they go through these lulls where they're like, yeah, they're not all that. And kind of balancing that out is like weird to me. They're still winning these games, but it's just like, how do you go from having a great win here and then the Mavericks just completely dog you, and then you get a great win here, and then you look like a shitty team again just a week later? Like, it's weird. Like, they can't really grab the momentum how I want them to. The Thunder, right here, gotta be here. That's an S tier season. But what more could you ask for the Thunder as well? Just completely building on what they did last year. They're 20-5, one of the best teams in basketball, best defense in basketball. They got an MVP candidate in gilgeous-alexander. Jay Will took a step, and they're doing all this without Chet Holmgren, and he's gonna make a big impact when he comes back. So definitely S tier for OKC. Orlando is an A tier season, building on what you did last year in the playoffs as well. Paolo came in and he looked like an MVP candidate off the bat. And after Paolo goes down, Franz comes in and he's just picking up the slack where Paolo left off. And now they're both hurt, which fucking sucks. That sucks. But so far they have had an A tier season. I wish Paolo and Franz could have stayed healthy. I believe they could have had an S tier season so far if that was the case. 76ers, man, you're at the bottom of F. There is not one single team I'm putting below the 76ers for the simple fact of their expectations were to be where these teams are. The Celtics, the Thunder, the Knicks, the Mavericks, the Cavs, the Bucks. You were supposed to be up there. Paul George, he plays once a month. Joel Embiid, he plays once a year. Jared McCain was your best player this season, and he's out with a meniscus tear. Tyrese Maxey's really been up and down, and as a number one option, I'm not sure how great Tyrese Maxey is as of yet. And he's the only one consistently playing games. So I thought you had enough pieces to the point where, okay, JoJo can miss some time and Paul George can miss some time, but as a collective, you got enough. And you don't got enough for 3 of your best pieces to not be playing. So, yeah, it's just a lost season for the Sixers, and it looks like this Paul George signing could have been a mistake. But we moved. The Suns. Honestly, the Suns have not been bad this year. They're B tier, and they're only B tier. They could have been A tier, but KD has missed a lot of time. This Suns team looks really, really good when KD has been playing this year. Otherwise, they've been mid. Portland. I had no expectations for Portland, and they suck. There is no step taken. Scoot Henderson sucks. Yeah, I'm probably just gonna put y'all in F2. Sacramento, they've been bad. They have not been great. I think Sacramento thought they were going to add DeMar and take a step forward to making the playoffs, and they're just not really doing that. Like, they're not. They're a 500 team. I don't think they're, like, really capturing what they thought they would have gotten from the Light the Beam era when they were one of the fastest teams in the league, and they were super scary. De'Aaron Fox was winning Clutch Player of the Year. Like, they're just not there. They're not there. And I think that DeMar signing, they thought they were going to get there, but it's just not happening this season. I'm giving them a B, San Antonio, because all they wanted was development. And I'm seeing development out of Wemby. He started off slow to the year. Very, very slow. I was like, damn, Wembanyama, like, Jesus. But he's definitely picked it up. Chris Paul, honestly, as an on-court product, has not been good. But I can see the impact that he's having on running this team and the impact that he's having on the young players. Champagnie, that's a guy who's really he's looked really, really good so far this season. Wasn't even on my radar before, but now he's like honestly coming into his own. That three-point shot is really smooth. Devin Vassell, he hasn't played a ton this year. He started off hurt, but he's looked pretty decent as well. I think Harrison Barnes was a decent addition as well. I just like the vet presence, and they're also 500, and that was not the case for them last year. They've clearly gotten better, and that's what you want to see if you're San Antonio, so I'll give them the B for that. Toronto is hard to grade. Like, they're in the same boat as, like, honestly, New Orleans, like, they're not great this year. They're just not. I think the only bright spot has been RJ Barrett. And that's really been it. Scotty Barnes has not been able to stay on the court. Washington, terrible. I don't think I have to explain. There's not much to say. They suck. Utah, terrible. There's not much to say. They just suck. Those are not two teams that we're supposed to win games this year. But yeah, I can only put you so high if you suck ass. So yeah, based on your expectations, this is what I have my power rankings. No, that's a different video. This is my tier list. S tier, absolutely, like, you just crushed it. You're crushing it. A tier, you're on base. You're right there. Like, you're doing very well as well. B tier, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, more or less. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. C tier is like, we're kind of missing it. We're missing the mark by a wee bit, bruh. D tier is like, yeah, like, we really need to change something. Like, we're not there right now. We could be there, but we're not there. F tier, Doki. I still can't believe the 76ers are this bad. Let me know if you agree with this tier list, or if you even understood what I was trying to do here. Because it was a little bit hard to balance, especially with some of the bad teams, because they didn't have a lot of expectations going into the year. But yeah, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe. We're going to have more content on the way, because the damn semester is finally over. Thank the Lord. And I'll catch y'all on the next one.